The current crisis in Nepal is nothing but a playbook of the deep state. If you analyze the working of the deep state for the last several decades, you will realize that the deep state, in particular the CIA and the United States administration, whether it was Biden or whether it is now Trump, their intent is to have control over the Indian subcontinent as well as the Asia-Pacific region, which is of interest to them at this point of time. The reason deep state is interested is primarily because they want to work towards reducing China's hegemony within this particular region. Now, if you've seen recently, the Trump administration and the deep state has been working extensively to create confusion in India through their operation Diversion, Deception and Division, which is what we revealed on the Republic channel a couple of weeks ago. That the mission, the objective is halted for some point of time right now as far as their change of plan, which was one of the agendas that they had, is halted right now, is aborted. The intent of the deep state has not changed. So what you have happening in Nepal is a playbook of the deep state. They will work towards throwing out the Oli government. We saw it in Sri Lanka a couple of years ago. We saw it in Bangladesh very recently, and we are going to see it in Nepal as well. Now, we do know that the deep state, the US administration, was very keen in having a base in the Indian subcontinent to counter China. That is why Sheikh Hasina, in her message, just before she had to flee and resign from Bangladesh, clearly stated that a white man had told her that they would, at some point of time in the near future, look at creating a separate nation out of parts of Bangladesh, parts of India, and parts of Myanmar. They were also very keen on pushing her for the St. Martin's Island in order to have a US base. In much the same way, one of the 7-point agendas to the people that they were working with in India from the key conspirators bit of Operation 37 was wanting to have a base in India as well. And they had identified Ladakh. So deep state, when you look at it, is all about economic control. Their intent in Nepal is also economic control so that they reduce China's hegemony. And in the fight of US and China, that is where the other Indian subcontinental nations are having a catastrophic reaction to this fight between the two. They tried it with India. India stayed strong, and therefore India is able to withstand the pressures that US put over them over the last 1 month with very, very sophisticated, very focused diplomatic posturing to the crisis with the US. India is going to be extremely vigilant to what is happening in Nepal. India has got to be extremely cautious to what is happening in the other Indian subcontinent regions as well, because there is no doubt in my mind, with all the information that is there in the hands of our intelligence agencies and also with people who track geopolitical situations, that there is an attempt at a regime change in India. Whether it will be successful or not is a matter of time, but I believe that the Indian government is able to withstand that. That's why the intelligence apparatus of the Indian government has been working overtime to keep an eye on all the kind of complexities that are arising in the neighbouring countries of the Indian subcontinent, as well as even in India itself. As you see, Trump and the US administration actually decided to shake hands and go to bed with Pakistan in order to put pressure on India to agree to the free trade agreement, which India refused to sign in the interest of the people of India. That is why Prime Minister Modi has always been putting India first. You are going to see more pressure coming in. You're going to see similar kind of situation in India that you've seen in Nepal and that you've seen in Bangladesh. We had protests and uprisings happening as far as the CAA was concerned, as far as the farm laws were concerned. There were attempts made in the past to try and see that the government is cornered, some sort of a revolution or a rebellion happens, but the Indian government has been strong. The people of India have been resilient to understand the tactics of the deep state, and therefore it has not been successful. As you see right now, the opposition is even trying to create question marks on certain institutions that are there in the country, in particularly the Election Commission of India, so that the people lose that faith as far as the institutions are concerned. People might just not want to vote, they might want to rebel. That's the real nature of what the deep state and the CAI does as far as regime change is concerned. They normally work with the youth. If you can pick out any of their history and you'll see that the trigger of a deep state action is always the youth. In recent time, the trigger of the deep state action has always been technological companies that are controlled by the deep state. So a ban in Nepal of the Facebook is what led to this surge of a rebellion against the government. And in fact, some people within Nepal are trying to figure out right now who were the other protesters coming in to turn the protest violent when the protest was not supposed to be violent. It was a challenge to the ban that the government had put on Facebook and social media, and therefore suddenly out of nowhere there was a surge of protesters that turned the protest violent, and that is when you know that this is more than a local youth movement trying to fight the government and trying to ask for equality and justice. It is the same thing you saw in Bangladesh. Even right now, Muhammad Yunus, who's the caretaker, running the caretaker government in Bangladesh, he is also going to face resistance from the same youth that he supported in order to ensure that the US gets their puppet in Bangladesh. That's the game. It's a US-China hegemony fight where the Indian subcontinent countries are being made scapegoats in this geopolitical battle.